All right. Hello. Happy Wednesday to everyone. Welcome back to another episode of Brand Experience Live. My name is Ashley Pireda, and I'm joined with my co-host, Lagala Moik. Nice to see you again.
Hello. Hi, good to see you. I always look forward to Wednesdays.
Me too. So for those who are joining us for the first time, Brand Experience Live is a live video podcast that we do weekly on Wednesdays at 12:30 Eastern Time here on LinkedIn, where you can join us as we talk with brands that we have found that are providing unrivaled brand experiences for their candidates, for their employees, prospects, buyers, and investors. And sometimes we even get to talk to other brand strategists and marketing professionals too, and brag a little on each other about what we're seeing in the market.
Amazing. Well, hello everyone, and today we have an amazing and a very, very important guest here. His name is Anthony Miyasaki, and Anthony, you are a brand strategist, marketeer, educator at FIU Business. So welcome, Anthony.
Welcome.
Well, I'm glad to be here. Thank you so much. Thanks, Ashley. Thanks, Lagla. It's good to be here, and I'm excited to discuss some branding.
Yes.
Amazing. So that's good. So tell us a little bit maybe to our audience about yourself and how you got started in marketing and branding.
It's interesting. My background really is I did some B2C work, mostly in banking, and then later on went to B2B and worked in some industrial, and I did sales. I did kind of you name it, I was there, and then really moved into marketing in the banking industry. Then later on in B2B, and then eventually moved into the point where I was into training and education, and I've been in marketing education now for a long time. And building programs and working with clients and consulting, and so it's been a long time of doing that, but it's been good because I've gotten to see everything change over the years. I've got to see things change as far as digital and analytics and data and just to see the impact it's had, and all the promises that were made to us that the internet would change our lives, and it did, but not in the way that people thought it would.
Yeah,
that's incredible.
That's cool. My first question popped into mind. It's like when you think of brand, I don't want to just say brand, but brand experience. What comes to your mind?
Well, I think there's a couple things. I think what happens is that there's a lot of people in marketing who don't really understand that it's not just about the product, that it really is about the brand, and it's about what the association we have with the brand. Mm-hmm. And I think that when we're selling products, we can sell products, we can sell services, but if we do that, I think what's going to happen is we're selling a commodity. Anyone can have a car, or a water bottle, or a service, but when you're selling a brand, you're selling the connection with that brand. You're selling something that's meaningful to the person. And that's why I think when you look at the really great brands we see out there, that people associate with the brand, not only because of the product, but because of what that brand represents. Yes. And I think the more that marketers start to understand that, then they can understand that, yes, I think the brand experience is kind of an all of the above. It's very all-encompassing. Mm-hmm. It means we have to think about what the service is like. We have to think about the product is like, what the aftermarket, after the sale, all of that.
Yeah.
But it really is that brand that represents something, and people want to walk away with that, regardless of whether it's a top-level luxury brand or it's something that we might not consider luxury. One person's luxury is, someone person's lower-level brand is someone else's luxury brand still. Mm-hmm. And so I think there's something important for us to kind of consider when we're thinking about that.
So true. I'm already loving this conversation so much.
I know.
Because we talk about all of this all the time and constantly talking about connection and authenticity and how you're relating to whomever your audience is, whether you're selling a job or a product or a service. It doesn't matter what industry, it doesn't matter what the market is. It's human to human connection at the end of it all.
Well, it is. And I think, and I like your comment when you said that it doesn't matter who we're selling to, because even if we're not selling to, like, for example, we sell our products to certain people, but we sell our brands
Mm.
to virtually everybody.
Yes.
Even if you're not going to buy my product, I still want you to buy into my brand. I want you to buy into the concept of what my brand represents. And
Yes.
maybe you're not going to buy my product. Maybe it's not the right product for you. Maybe you can't afford it. Maybe it's just not the right location or geographic location, whatever it is. But if you really believe in my brand, then you're going to support my brand. You're going to support other people who do buy my brand. You're going to watch my ads. You're going to feel comfortable. And I need that. Whether you're an employee or you're, in fact, even my competitors, I want them to buy into my brand, at least to some degree.
Yeah, but it wasn't always like that, because obviously, but it wasn't always like that because we started with very product orientated in 30s, before 30s. Then it got very salesy. Then it got marketing, and the relationships only came like in, I think, 90s, because when we started to have this more two-way communication. How have you seen like brands evolving during this journey? Like, because you've been in the industry for a while, and obviously how often did you have to like think, oh my God, it's changing again, Are you always prepared for that or not?
And I like that question, Lagla, because, I feel like back in the day, a lot of the relationship building was really done in B2B, where people had to know each other and kind of have that. And in fact, I think sometimes I feel like relationships trumped the brand itself, and it was more important to have the relationship than it was to have a good product or a good service or a good brand. But I think that more and more as kind of consumerism came in 60s, 70s, 80s, and then especially when we had the internet and we had digital, that the power of the consumer, the power of the buyer became a lot bigger. And now I look at it and when people will say, well, big brands, in fact, the bigger the brand, the more likely that the brand, the organization doesn't really control the brand anymore. The more likely it's controlled to some degree by this huge customer base out there on social media. And if you don't understand how to relate to them, how to connect with them, and how to build communities with them, then you're never going to have control over your brand. It's always going to be in the hands of the vocal, group that's going to say things about your brand, hopefully positive things. But we all know, and we've seen these experiences where someone says something negative, and then that brand suffers because of it. And I think the more you understand how that works with connections and communities, then I think you can start to build these brand advocates, and then the brand advocates can make a difference. And then if something bad happens, the people that are your brand advocates are going to come back in and they're going to stand up for you, because they're the ones I think that can save the brand, not necessarily the organization itself. So I think that change has been to go from the B2B relationships to now caring enough about the customers. And then I think what happened was digital and social media and everything else just exacerbated all of that and made it bigger and stronger and better. And so I think that makes what we're doing now is much more exciting, because now you can make a big difference, but you can also get into a lot of trouble if you don't have the right people in there to kind of work with, like I said, not just the clients that you're selling to, but kind of like what we were, Ashley had mentioned, that, no matter who you're selling to, and we sell our brand to everyone. We don't sell our brand only to the few people that actually buy our product.
Yeah. And it's interesting that you brought up the point of, other people can carry your brand, or they can be the ones to create your brand. A common theme that we're seeing in a lot of our guests that we've spoken with is along the lines of the same thing. I mean, we had Kate Holmes on a couple of weeks ago, and she talked about employee experience, and she made the comment of culture is created whether you make it or not. So you need to be intentional about how it's being created. And I think that that's the same thing in terms of brand, who you are, what your story is, why it's that way, what your mission is, how you're going to tell that story, how you're going to connect, and what communities you're going to build around your brand. And then going back to our conversation with Jared Robin, specifically about building community, is making sure that you're identifying the right people to represent your brand, because it's going to create itself, and it's going to eventually, hopefully, if you're doing it right, go on its own through these evangelists that you've brought into your business, whether it is community, it's buyers, it's your employees, it's, investors, it's other types of representatives. the goal is for
Yeah.
them to go to market for you. So you need to give them a really, really great experience so they can do it right for you.
True. It's interesting. And, I remember back in sales, I mean, our mantra was always, who's the first person you need to sell to? And the first person you need to sell to is your salespeople. You have to make sure your salespeople really believe in the product. When they believe in the product, then it's easy. Then they'll go out there and they'll push the product because they believe in it. But that means that you first of all, you have to have a product that's believable, right? I mean, you have to have a good product and a good service. When you have that, then it's easy to sell it. But you have to convince them first. And I think that's the same thing with employees. I mean, getting the employees on board to what the brand represents and believing in the brand, I think is critical. It's just, if you don't have that, then you're never going to make it because the person that's on the front line, that person dealing with the customer in B2C, that's the person who's going to really, that's your spokesperson for the brand. And so many companies don't give enough focus on really treating them with that respect, and making sure that they feel like they're really part of this, that they're not the low level employee, but they're actually a very important person out there. And it's not just, the company, someone at the top saying it, but it's them kind of really showing it and showing that they really care.
Acting on it.
Huge difference.
Yes. And that's where, so Lagla posted something, I think last week, about buyer experience. And it's funny because Lagla and I, right, I'm on one end focusing on employees and candidate experience. And then she picks up, once people get into the company, where she focuses on prospect and buyer experience. And she had posted something on LinkedIn specifically about this. You need to give a good customer experience and a good buyer experience if you want your brand to succeed. And I came in, of course, with my no, focus on the employees because they're the ones that are going to do it. And I love that her and I are able to do that and, talk about these things together, because I think these honest conversations about who or what is the most important in your company to give the best experience to, it's one of those, what came first, the chicken or the egg thing.
Well, and I think the key really is to take that you want to focus on your employees so the employees will focus on your end users, right, on your customers.
Yes.
And I think that's really the key. And whether you're B2B or B2C, the idea is to make sure that everyone's got the same kind of mentality, that this is about building a reputation, right, and building this community that cares about each other. And so if you do that, then what's great about that is then you'll start to see your actual customers coming back the other direction, and they'll start caring about your employees. They're the ones that are going to come in and say, hey, we're going to support, this business and support the people that are working here because they care about us. So.
Yeah. I think it's just the core is still there, but it's just that the way we approaching now the situations. And before it was I like to go back to this evolution of marketing. I went to the store and I had this store experience, and that was really it, and I left, But now, before even customer even thinks of your product, they already know so much about you because either the neighbor told me or colleague told me. And this is actually, referral business is so strong now, that preferred way to buy. So don't underestimate your clientele. And even if they don't buy from you now, like you said, you have to be ready and obviously express what you're selling, talk about the product in a positive way, how they can solve the problem, and obviously offer solutions. So I think it's just such a strong communication. And even today, I like to sometimes make these phone calls to the clients, actually, who are prospects, who are already leads, but for whatever reasons they don't become a customer straight away, just to get the feedback, what is stopping them. And I think that's again another way building relationships. You can't do with everyone that, but if it's more personalized business, I think that's very good for me as the other end, to understand that what is stopping them, to becoming the customer, and is it actually something they're gonna do it in the future. So keep the open communication, and I think this is where lots of business is still struggling.
I agree. I think it's interesting. I always think of brands as, you want to build your brand with conviction, but at the same time you want to have flexibility. And you want to have flexibility because over time, the brand's going to grow. It's going to change over time. People change over time. And so I think that, it's a little bit dangerous, I think, when brands try to say, this is our brand, we're going to keep this concept of our brand forever. And I think it's fine if you use evergreen concepts like, innovation, quality, compassion, and other positive concepts. But at some point, we have to realize that our brand is about fulfilling a need that the audience members have, and that our audiences are going to change over time. And because of that, our products are going to change over time. Our services are going to change over time. Maybe even the types of employees we have are going to change over time. So the brand itself can be built on these really strong core principles, but there has to be some flexibility in there. And I think that's really the good brands have done that. They haven't stayed the same over time. They'll say we've always cared about certain things, and that's good. But you can start to look at them and you start to see how they've evolved. And I think that's really, really a big thing for companies right now is trying to understand how that evolution is going to happen. And especially now, I think we are in a spot where things are going to evolve fairly quickly. And more than just it has with the change to online, which, people will tell me things like, oh, digital's the future. And I always feel like, oh, come on. Digital, I taught my first digital marketing course back in 1998. Okay. So it's like, that's 24 years ago. So digital is the past as well.
Yes.
It's the past, it's the present, and it's the future.
Yes.
And so it's no longer just the future.
Right.
And so, and whenever people say that, I always wonder about them. Like, where have they been?
I say the same thing about storytelling and brand and connection and building community, because this is what I have been preaching for 11 years is we need to focus on content and connecting and building relationships, where a lot of people thought I was crazy 11 years ago, but now everyone is finally, oh, this is the future. Like, no, this is the present. And if you aren't already here, you need to hurry up and hop on the bus before it leaves, because going back to Lagla's comment before about, maybe a buyer isn't ready, or someone doesn't want to work for your brand yet, or they're not in a position to invest yet, or whatever the reason is, not yet. It could be the product, the service, money, whatever it is. The power is within the individual. And in order to give them that power and help them to choose you, you have to let them educate themselves in every way that they can prior to making the decision of, okay, I value this brand. They have great mission. They have a great purpose, product, service, the employee experience, whatever it is. They really want to take care of the world around them. If we want to go and start getting into conversation about younger millennials and Gen Z, as far as changing the world and being socially responsible, but they want to be educated and feel like they have the power to make that decision when they're ready. And they will come back around, whether it's with your personal brand, it's a professional brand. Your job is to educate and give.
True. In fact, it's interesting when you mentioned storytelling, because one of the things I always push is the idea that the storytelling isn't just a matter of us just telling a story about our brand. It's a matter of us trying to tell stories and to weave those stories in and out and through and around our product offerings, our people, our employees, our audiences, and our products. And so basically, the more you include all these people in your story and in your storytelling, and you let them do that, user-generated content we know is a huge thing. And so the more you weave that story in and out around them, then what's happening is you're giving all of those people multiple engagement experiences, multiple opportunities to be part of that story. And we love to be part of the story. We love it. And think about a time that a friend of yours come up to you, or some person you knew, and hopefully it wasn't a creepy situation where someone's like, hey, I had a dream about you. But they mentioned you were in their dream, or you were thinking about them or something, and at first you're like, what? I was in your dream. What was I doing? But what's interesting is you're drawn in all of a sudden, because now you realize that you were part of a story that they experienced. Or they say, even something like, hey, I heard something about you. And you think, what did you hear? I want to know how I'm part of that experience. And the same people want to be part of the story. They want to be part of it. It's just a matter of bringing them in. And I think about event marketers. and how, they want to put on this great event, but then they fail sometimes because they don't go back and try to find a way to take those people that were at the event and bring them into the story.
Oh,
You
that
know?
is so missing. And even after the fact. And it's funny. I think it's like that with, I
Yeah.
know, right? We wouldn't have started our agency if this wasn't the case. But I feel like this is that way with any role that you see. They're solely focused on, okay, what is my job? Not what comes before me, what goes after me, how it ties back into what I did, how I'm going to be able to measure the value of what I provided. It's just, okay, I have a task, get it done. Have a task, get it done. And that's why, like, Lagala and we're so
Yeah.
bent on, no, let's think about this holistically as an organization, or maybe you're an individual with your personal brand. Think about it holistically in every area that you're going to touch and how they all tie in together, and really what your responsibility is with the next person that's involved.
No, I agree. I mean, it's interesting. One of my colleagues, Yanine San Luis, just recently was writing on LinkedIn about quiet quitting.
Yeah.
Where they don't actually quit their
Yes.
job, but they don't really do what they're supposed to be doing. And or they just stick to just their job duties. And I always feel like they haven't been courted enough,
Yeah.
by the company. They haven't been convinced to feel like, what, there's more to this than just my job duties. There's me being part of something that's big. And I think that's why it's, so it's back to that idea of who do you sell to? Sell to the salespeople? Well, sell to your employees. Make sure your employees know that this is something great and they can be a part of it, and treat them that way. And then I think at that point, they do care, and they do want to care about, what you mentioned, Ashley, that it's what happened before and after, right? We're not just on a production line where it's like, I got my widget, I put on the top, and that's it. That's all I do. I don't do anything else.
Yeah.
No, they have to do something more than that.
Yeah.
There's something else.
And we like to.
Go ahead. Sorry, Lago, go ahead, please.
No. I'll let you finish, and then I come back to my question.
No, I was just thinking also just the idea that I think a lot of marketers, a lot of CEOs even think that there is this idea that the brand is one thing, and it's that one thing that it's the same thing to everybody, and it's not. And I think that people have to not be afraid of letting that brand have different meanings to different audience segments.
Yes.
So true. So true.
And we see it all the time, right? Well, we see a brand we think is a great brand, and then we hear that they treat their employees badly. Well, that is a different brand for each person. But what we really want to say is, even for the people we're selling to, that for one person, the big truck brand that you're selling might be the truck that is going to go out there and haul a bunch of wood and rocks and things. But for another audience, it's a truck that they're going to, either jack up high or drop down low and put lights around the outside and make it look really pretty, And so, but it's a different brand for different people, and that's okay. It's okay. Yes. It doesn't hurt our brand to be multifaceted.
Exactly.
Yeah. No, I wanted to actually come back to the question. This is really, Ashley and I have been talking for a while. Gen Z, what do you think? Obviously, that's a future power. And obviously, TikTok made me buy it. It makes me buy as well, from Gen Z. Actually, future companies, businesses ready for Gen Z.
It's interesting. I have to tell you here, I've already got my own bias about this. It's just, the Gen Z, the millennials and everything else. I think it's tough when people start to say things like, like millennials or what, around 1981 to 1996, it's like a pretty big 15-year gap. And the Gen Zers have got like their pretty big gap as well. And it's interesting because at some point in life, it's hard to say that, just because you were born at a certain time, this is how you're going to feel. Yes. And what I think is really funny is, 15 years is a pretty big gap. I think of a person who's 23 years old, just graduated from college, and then a person who is 38 years old, and has, kids and everything else. And it's like, oh, wow, there's such a big difference there. But are we ready for them? I think for the younger generations coming in, I think that and plus I think there's a lot of diversity within the the generations too. You know, there are
Yeah.
some people who really care about things and some people who just
Yeah.
don't. And so, you know, there's all these different markets. I'm a big fan of segmenting markets based on psychographics rather than, you know, and behavioral characteristics
Yes.
much more than demographics and socioeconomics. But are we ready for them? Yeah, I think we're getting there. I think that it's hard when you look at a brand run by people who are older who don't get it. You know, and I'm not saying you know, I mean, look at me, I look old. You know, I got the gray beard. But the idea is that I think people have to be connected. They have to connect, right? And I think if you're
Yes.
disconnected, regardless of what your age is, if you're
Yes.
going to become disconnected from your audiences, then you're
Yep.
never ever going to be able to serve them. And I think,
Amen.
and you've got to get out there. You got to get out there with the audiences. You can't
Yeah.
rely on the reports. You got to walk the street. You got to be right there in the store, wherever it's going to be, and you've got to see what people are doing. You know, the more you do that and talk to them, not just talk to them in the safety of a focus group, but talk to them right there. Just
Yes.
stand there and understand. And the more you understand, the more you see their frustrations, the more I think now you'll be ready for them. So I think they're not ready. The ones that aren't ready are the ones that aren't connecting, and they're
Correct.
not. And I think they don't. They need to care about connecting. They need to have that empathy and communication.
And they don't.
The more they have, the more they'll connect.
Yeah.
The more they connect,
Yes.
the more they'll be ready. Because then they'll say, "I don't think our brand's doing what it needs to do to reach this audience." And I feel like, and you can't not reach them, right? They are the future of your brand. You know, it's critical. It's critical.
I have my own opinions on it
Yeah.
too. I mean, I don't necessarily even think
Yeah.
that, you know, are we ready for them? I think that there is a small group of brands right now that genuinely think right. They're already doing all the right things and they're going to continue to do the right things. This is where we, you know, segment and break up in sales, right? Who 10% are going to do this and 10% are going to do this. And then it's the 80%, right? So there's always going to be the brands that they're always going to be prepared way in advance. They're ready for the next big thing. They already have their strategies. They're just ready to go when it's time. And there's definitely, especially as we're seeing with this huge gap in generations right now, from leadership down to the incoming class of new employees that we're going to see over the next 7 years. I feel like from my conversations and reports that I've studied and podcasts that I've listened to too, and things that I've been a part of, is that there's a lot of mentality in the older generation of, I've always done it this way. It's been like this since the beginning of time. I'm on my way out the door. I'm going to go out how I need to. And it's not going to change while they're in the seat. Hopefully their business maintains during that time, and it can be passed down to others that are ready to, you know, bring the brand down long term. But I think more so what we're going to see is that Gen Z is going to make it happen. They're going to come in, and they're already they're starting businesses, they're starting charities. They are loud, they are outspoken, they are not afraid to say, this is what I need, this is what I believe in. If you can't do it for me, I'm going to do it myself. I think that's, for me, a lot of what I feel like we're going to see is they're just not even going to bother with a lot of brands. They're going to go out and do it themselves and make it happen.
I think I agree because I guess I agree that every generation has its go-getters that makes it happen, right?
Yeah.
You know, if we were having this conversation 50 years ago, then we probably would have been talking about, you know, some other generation coming in and someone saying, oh, you know, we don't care about them. And then the people that weren't really adept at it would be lost and they'd be booted out at some point, and then the new ones would come in. And I think it's happened. It's happened over the years where someone new came in, and, you know, if we look at someone, you know, whether it's a Bill Gates or Elon Musk or anybody else out there that's got all the, you know, that's done all these things. The truth is now we look at them as old people, but the truth is they were innovators at their time. And I think that's the key, is that there's always going to be innovators. I think what's important, though, I will say this, and I will say this to any, you know, the millennials and Gen Zers, is don't just discount people and say, oh, you know, don't do the okay boomer thing. Don't do that, because with knowledge and wisdom and experience and all those things, they're valuable. And there's a reason why so many of those people that have that experience, why they're so successful, because they have learned over time. And remember, it's not like they didn't ever have to change already in the past. They may have gone through a 30 or 40 year career where they were always changing anyway.
Yes.
It's the ones that don't ever change are the ones that are left behind. And it's interesting. I keep thinking about this employee thing that you talk about, Ashley, and how one of the big things I push all the time is this idea of personal and professional branding. We talk about it all the time because I just feel like who you are matters, right? But there are a lot of companies, I think, and these are the old stodgy companies that don't really want their employees to build their own personal brand, right? They either prohibit it, they don't let them, get on LinkedIn, they don't let them talk about things, they discourage it, or they don't even encourage their employees to build their own brands. Yeah. And I think it's a huge mistake.
Or they force you to only talk about what they want.
Right. And I think it's a mistake because I think what happens is that, and there's three reasons for that, is that number one, deals are made between people, not between organizations, right? So who you are with your personal brand is going to make a difference. Also, personal branding helps improve employee satisfaction. They feel better when they feel better about themselves.
Yes.
And especially if that company, if that brand helped them develop that personal brand, oh my gosh, now they're going to feel, not just obligated, but they're going to really care about that company and that brand. And then finally, strong personal brands lead to strong organizational brands. And so I think that's where the more that an organization can come in, help its employees kind of build themselves, give them the training, let them build up. And, are you going to lose some people every now and then? Of course you are. Mm-hmm. Of course you are. But I'd rather lose a person that I helped build themselves than keep everybody down, just so I can keep them.
That should be the point, to help your people be better.
Yeah. Right. And if you lose them, so you lose them.
Yeah.
But I'd rather lose a person I helped build than keep a person that I kept suppressing and like, oh, you can't do anything else. Mm-hmm. I don't want you to, because I don't want you to leave. I mean, that's horrible. That's like being in a bad marriage or something,
Awful.
But it's okay. I'm not able to talk about that, but but no, I'm just saying but I think that's what happens a lot of times, that people feel like they're not allowed to grow.
Yes.
And so I think that's a really important thing for our employees, is to let them grow, and not just let them grow, but to help them grow. Help them be amazing. And then what they're going to find out is now those amazing people are going to do amazing things for our brand.
Mm-hmm.
Totally
agree with that.
So true. This is so good.
I hate to say this, but we're out of time. we're over. I could sit and listen.
I'm sad. I'm sad about this. We were just getting going.
I
know. Just warmed up,
I know. So for anyone who would like to continue the conversation afterwards, because I don't know about any of you guys, I could legitimately talk about this stuff all day, because I do, and it's what I love. But please connect with Anthony on LinkedIn. I just put his information up on the screen. We'll make sure to have it in the comments as well. Connect with myself, Lagla, anyone who has questions, or, if you're looking for help with your personal or your professional brand for your company, please feel free to reach out to any three of us for advice, referrals, to work directly with us. We would love to help to just make sure that you're, on the path to making the right decisions for your brand. But thank you so much, Anthony, for joining us. This has been honestly so pleasurable. I've been like a kid in a candy store for this entire conversation.
Well, thanks. It was fun to come in and chat, and I hope that sometime we'll have to do more chatting in the future. I think it's huge important things for companies that are, if they really want to be successful in the future, they've got to pay attention to what we've been talking about today.
Yes, completely agree.
That's very good point.
Well, make sure to join us again next week on Wednesday at 12:30 Eastern time. If you have a brand that you would like to brag about, we would love to talk about the things that you are doing well with your employees, with your employer brand, with your prospects and buyers. Even if you're an investor and you would like to give some tips on any startups and what to look for in investors and advisors, we would love to help to share your story and your experience and grow other brands so that we can change the world around us. But until then, I hope that you guys have an amazing week, and we'll see you next week.
See you next week. Thank you.